trees provide numerous benefits like erosion protection, shading and cooling, and providing wildlife habitat. But like any other living thing, they can suffer from various ailments. Joining me is Jamie Gunter with the Lexington Soil and Water Conservation District to shed some light on tree health, common problems, and solutions.
Thank you, Terasa. I've been involved in the tree care business for many years. Started out kind of in high school, agriculture classes, FFA, things like that. Was able to obtain a forest resource management degree and been doing that professionally for over 20 years. Primarily focusing in forest resource management, tree care in the landscape industry, things of that nature.
So you've got a lot of experience and education to draw from.
Yes, yes.
So let's start at the beginning. What are some reasons someone might have a tree health assessment performed?
There are a couple different reasons. One of the main reasons, trees are an investment. A lot of people, they spend money planning it out, having a landscape design, picking a nice tree, having it installed. So you want to protect that investment, and a health assessment is a good way to do that. Another reason could be, like I mentioned earlier, trees are an investment. If you have an issue with one tree, you want to keep it contained and not spread to other trees.
Ah, that's right, if it's something that could potentially be contagious, so to speak.
Correct. And also, people acquire property for the first time. They may not be aware of what type of vegetation is on their property. They may have nice native trees. They could have an invasive species that needs to be controlled as well. So just to get a good idea of what you're responsible for on your property is a reason to get a tree health assessment.
Well, let's talk about the steps involved. So there is a tree behind us. What would be the first thing that we need to know about this tree if we're going to perform a health assessment?
Well, one of the first things to do is identify the tree. Make sure you know what type of tree you're looking at, so you know what characteristics to look out for, what tree may be susceptible to a certain type of disease versus another. One way to find that out is talk to the property owner. Depending on the property, it could be a person that's owned that property for many years. They may have planted that tree themselves. They may be able to tell you the day or the occasion it was planted. Try to save yourself a little bit of that legwork if the property owner can tell you that. And once you've identified the tree and kind of obtained your preliminary information on it, I would start out just do an overall ocular assessment. I call it ground to crown.
I like that terminology. Now we know that this is a silver maple,
yes.
So we can tell that from a number of factors. Sometimes if you get familiar with the species, you can just recognize it, but there's bark and form.
Correct.
Leaf structure.
Yes, and again, on this silver maple, like I said, I've worked around them many years. I can, from a distance you can spot a maple, but the silver maple, you can tell it's got 5 distinctive lobes on the leaves, and if you flip the leaf over on the back side, it does have a noticeable silvery color to it, and it's got a lighter color petiole, which is the attachment from the leaf to the actual twig of the plant.
So our first step is done. We know we've got a silver maple. Now tell me a little bit about what you see on that crown to ground inspection.
Well, that tree, starting out, we notice it's got a nice layer of pine straw around it. It's not too deep, it's not too thick. You can still see a root flare on the tree, which means the tree is growing at the right depth of how it needs to be for those top feeder roots to uptake the water that's stored in that pine straw mulch. But you don't go too far up that tree and you start seeing some things going on. One of the first things we notice on it is a codominant stem, and a codominant stem is like it sounds. It's codominancy. You have 2 main stems coming off of that leader from the ground, and they're constantly competing with one another to dominate, which side of that tree. So that's an issue with nutrient uptake into the stems. And another product of those codominant stems is included bark. That's where the stems actually kind of roll together. They're trying to heal themselves off, and you can see the layer of bark that's actually protruding a little bit in the intersection of those 2 stems. Not too far above that, we've got some holes exposed from, looks like some pruning from years in the past. It's not been able to fully heal over. It's got some rot in there. You can just do a depth check on there and see that there's soft wood in there. It's holding some excess moisture.
So moving up the tree, we see numerous small holes that seem to be arranged in a pattern.
Yes, those holes are caused by a sapsucker, and a sapsucker is a bird, kind of in the woodpecker family, and they feed off of the tree, suck the sap out of it, how they get their name. And that is common to see in a lot of landscape trees and shrubs. And if it's excessive, it can put an extra strain on the tree to try to heal all of those wounds that sapsucker causes. And in this tree we have here, I would consider that excessive. That's another issue that's going to cause rotten wood. That's an open wound for excess moisture to get in. You know, airborne fungi can get in the tree, and it's not good in all cases.
And then further up, it looks like we have some branches that are dead and even some decomposition going on.
Yes, we do. And again, like the tree, like I said earlier, the ground to crown, I mean, it starts from the roots. When the roots uptake, they're trying to push the water and minerals up through the tree. And when you have rotten wood, it's not going to accept that. So the tree will push it up as far as it can, and it just kind of quits. And that causes the crown of the tree not to receive the water and nutrients it needs, and it's going to die back.
We've identified a number of problems in the tree. Now, what's the next step?
The next step is to take the information that we received from the assessment, give us an idea if we can reduce the hazards of the tree, if it can be repaired, or does it need to be replaced or removed.
And you mentioned the word hazard. So are all ailing trees hazard trees?
Not necessarily. An ailing tree is what it says. It's a tree that's got some issues, some things you need to look at. But a hazard tree has the same type of ailments, but it also has to have a target. If that tree were to fail, would it cause harm to property, people in the yard, traffic, roadways? So, a hazard tree has to have a defect and a target, and then an unhealthy tree that if it failed wouldn't cause any great harm is just an unhealthy tree.
Well, Jamie, what's your final assessment for this tree?
I would recommend to remove the tree. It's not a huge hazard, but it does pose a hazard to the home here, and there's also a power line next to it, and there's not really anything you could reasonably do to repair that tree or prolong the life of it. I would recommend removing it and replace it with a more suited tree.
So in the event removal is the course of action, how do our viewers find qualified professionals?
One way they can find them, go to the internet. I'd go to the International Society of Arboriculture website. They have a link that's Find an Arborist. You can also go to Trees Are Good, and they have a Find an Arborist link as well. And you can punch in your zip code or your city, and it would be a nice list of folks that would be glad to come out and talk to you about your trees. And
we can count on them that they have received credentials. They are trained and experienced in that line of work. Yes. Part of being an ISA certified arborist is an application process, it's an exam, and it's continuing ongoing credits to make sure that the arborists are aware of the changes in the industry and the latest practices and standards for the industry. Well, thank you so much. It's been really fun talking trees. Yeah, thank you.